Okay, hopefully that works for everyone. Okay, so starting again. Welcome to Brain Breaks in the 6 to 12 classroom. I'm Erin, and we are going to get started. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Pure Edge, and I have experience delivering brain breaks in all kinds of school settings, all kinds of classrooms. I did a lot of direct instruction in K through 6, but I have also delivered this type of work to middle and high school students. And over the years, through our work at Pure Edge, we've done a ton of work training educators. And so I've worked with lots of educators who work with the middle and high school students, and we've done some troubleshooting and figured out really the best ways to deliver these programs. So my hope is that my learning can support you as you try to bring this work into the schools. And one thing I will say, and this will come up on the next slide too, is that one of the big pieces with 6 through 12 is building buy-in. So we're definitely going to talk about that today. If you're on this webinar, you probably know who we are. We are Pure Edge Inc. We're a private operating foundation, and we provide direct service to organizations through professional development and strategy thought partnership. Okay. So, hopefully I'll be able to see if you go ahead and share in the Q&A your name, where you're joining from, and what school district or organization. And thank you for bearing with me as I learn this new platform. Let's see. Yeah, for some reason, the Q&A is not showing up for me. So in order to preserve our time, I'm gonna not be able to see where everyone's joining from. But we are hopeful that some of our colleagues from Hawaii are here. The last time we did a Brain Breaks webinar at this time, we got to join with some of our Hawaiian educators, which was really amazing and wonderful to have you all on live. Okay. So as we get started, we're going to start with a check-in. And just take a moment and check in with your energy level. So noticing where your energy's at. Sometimes it can help to kind of take a gentle breath or two. Just that little pause. And, again, if it's a later session for you all, then your energy might be feeling different. I'm actually feeling pretty good. It's 4 o'clock where I'm at, and it just feels like a nice time of day to be connecting with everyone. Um, okay, and we're going to start our session with one of our practices. So the mindful minute is actually a really wonderful brain break to introduce to your 6th through 12th grade learners. I think the younger learners can do a version of Mindful Minute, but the older learners, we can really teach this one in a very similar way that we do it as adults. So let's go ahead and get started. For the Mindful Minute, just come into a comfortable sitting position. If you're in a chair, if it's possible, you want to get both of your feet on the ground, legs are not crossed. If you're sitting on the floor, you can sit cross-legged or any way that's comfortable. You want to find a little lift in the chest, so we are sitting up a little bit tall. There's softness in the shoulders. And your eyes, it's your choice. You can have your eyes open or closed. If you keep your eyes open, I recommend just bringing your gaze away from the screen. And from here, we'll start by bringing our attention to the breath. And I invite you to bring your attention to the breath just as it comes in and out the nose. So noticing the breath as you breathe in, noticing the breath as you breathe out. Just taking a couple breaths here. You might notice whether your breath is moving fast or slow. You might notice whether the temperature of the breath is warm or cool. And from here, we'll expand our attention and just notice anywhere in the body that you feel the breath moving. And then shifting your attention, see whether you can feel your heartbeat. And just noticing whether the heart is beating fast or slow. And just taking a moment here to notice how you're feeling. Remembering that any feeling is welcome. We're just checking in. When you're ready, you can begin to deepen your breath. Bring a little movement back in to your fingers and toes if you've been sitting still, opening your eyes if you let them close, and bringing your gaze back to the screen. And thank you for joining in the Mindful Minute. And I'm going to go ahead and get to our learning objectives. It's also really nice to just notice how you feel. And again, if I can, I'll keep trying. Feel free to share some responses in the Q&A, and maybe what I'll do is toward the end of the webinar, I'll stop the screen share, and then I'll be able to see what you all have been sharing, and we can talk about it a little, because we really do strive to keep these webinars interactive. So one of our goals today is that we just experience the brain break. So we've already ticked that first brain break off the list. Because when you actually engage with these strategies and these practices, you're going to be better equipped to share them with the kids in your care. And you're also restoring yourself, right? And you're developing your own self-awareness and self-management competencies through practicing these exercises. Um, and the next thing we're going to do is explore the science behind the exercises. Although today's session, we're actually focusing more on the experience, and we're going to hear from learners from many learners from high school in San Diego that we did an intervention with, and they are going to share about their experience with the brain breaks, because like I said, one of the number one questions I get is how to build buy-in, and I don't know if high school kids will like this. And so I thought, what better way than for you to hear from the kids themselves, what it was like for them to learn these strategies and practice them. We're going to get into implementation, so the what, when, where, how questions, and we're going to make sure you have the resources to access our website, because all of the Brain Breaks resources are free and they're available on the website. And it's a really vast resource library, and we'll go over what it includes, but I want to make sure you know how to access it. Okay, so let's get started. So why do brain breaks? One of the things that we know as educators is that, the mental health, the state of the mental health of our kids is kind of in crisis. And this chart shows um, stats from 2013 up to 2023. So this is from a recent report of the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. And the legend, you can see the red means it's moving in the wrong direction, the yellow means no change, and the green means in the right direction over time. So if you look at the chart, and let's see if I can get my pointer, it says the percentage of high school students, and then you can look. So from 2013 to 2023, high school students experiencing persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness increased from 30% to 40%. Experiencing poor mental health, they didn't ask that question in 2013, but in the last 2 years, it's been 29%. Seriously considered attempting suicide. From 2013, that was 17% of students. 2023, that's 20%, so that was on the rise. Made a suicide plan, which, as we know, these steps, as we follow these steps, it's getting more and more serious. The ones who made a plan, 14% up to 16%. A suicide attempt, 8% to 9%. And finally, were actually injured in a suicide attempt and had to be treated by a doctor or a nurse. That went from 3 to 2. So that one they considered no change in the data. So this is heavy information. One positive trend that they saw is that from 2021 until now, we actually had the number of kids, or the percentage of kids experiencing persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness, that declined. So that was moving in the right direction. And a few of the other ones, which had been on the rise, sort of stabilized over the last couple of years. But this chart is really just to remind us of you know, the mental health issue that's facing us as educators and as, the kids who are in our schools. Um, okay, this one I'm actually not going to address. And we know that the schools play an important role in promoting student mental health. Feeling connected to others at school is a powerful strategy to protect students' mental health. School connectedness is the belief that others at school care about you, your success, and your well-being. When youth feel connected to their school, they are less likely to experience poor mental health. So again, the CDC is just letting us know how important the role of the school is in supporting learner well-being. And they made several recommendations in terms of strategies to improve school mental health. And the first recommendation was increasing students' mental health literacy. The next was promoting mindfulness. The third was promoting social, emotional, and behavioral learning. The fourth was enhancing connectedness. Fifth was providing psychosocial skills, training, and cognitive behavioral interventions. And finally, the importance of supporting staff well-being. So I'd like to highlight number 2. Their recommendations around mindfulness were to offer classroom-based time for mindfulness, time for students to engage in mindfulness on their own, and time for students to engage in mindfulness in small groups. And those small groups most often were led by a school counselor. And then finally, supporting staff well-being. We just need to remember that our well-being is so important, because when we want to be there and be able to support the kids in our care, we also want to make sure we have everything we need in order to do that. Okay. Okay, so as we were saying, self-care is primary to caring for others, right? We have to pour into our own cup before we can pour into someone else's. One of my teachers always said, you cannot give what you do not have, right? And I always carried that thought with me. Okay, so I'm going to share a video. In this next video, um, you're going to hear the superintendent from San Diego talk about the mindfulness project that we collaborated with them on.
We want students to know that they're seen and they're heard and they're understood. And whatever challenges and struggles they bring into the classroom, they have teachers who are culturally responsive and teachers who are aware of what their students' social emotional needs are as much as their academic needs are. If students don't feel safe, they're not able to learn. If students aren't healthy, they're not able to learn. We define equity as each and every student gets what he or she needs, when they need it, in the way that they need it. And we like to say that every teacher needs to know every student by name and by need. And when you know students by name and by need, you're not just teaching masses of kids, you're teaching individual students. And we call it unlocking their genius. Unlock the genius and the brilliance of every single student and give those classroom conditions that allow them to thrive and shine. So for us, it's the whole child approach, and that social emotional learning is really primary.
Okay. I love how she says, knowing the students by name and by need. Okay, so in the Brain Breaks program, the strategies that we incorporate are very simple. They're breathing, moving, and resting. What happens when we practice these simple brain break strategies over time is that our brains and our bodies adapt and we become more able to stay responsive when we're undergoing stressful situations, right? And this comes with consistency of practice. And it doesn't mean that you'll never have a reactive moment. Of course you will, but it means that over time, when done with consistency, we're training our brains and our bodies, and we're feeling a sense of peace and calm inside of ourselves, and we're giving ourselves tools that we can call upon when we are experiencing stressful situations. So let's start with one of our first breathing strategies. So we're going to do even in, even out. And I invite you to participate. I know it's a webinar, but hopefully you'll join in. Come into a comfortable sitting position, both feet on the floor. Sit up a little tall if you can, shoulders soften. For this one, we're going to build an even pace of our breathing. So we're going to work on breathing in an even amount and out an even amount. I'm going to extend the length of the breath, and then I'm going to bring the length of the breath back down. So you can follow my count. If at any time it doesn't feel comfortable in your body, of course, listen to your body and follow your own breath. Okay, so in your comfortable sitting position, just a nice gentle breath in through the nose and out. And in and out. Okay, and now we'll start our count. So breathing in for a count of 1. Breathing out for a count of 1. Breathing in for a count of 1, 2. Breathing out, 2, 1. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3. Breathing out, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in for 1, 2, And breathing out, 2, 1. And last one, breathing in for 1 and out for 1. Coming back to normal breath and just noticing how your body feels. Okay, so the Brain Breaks program takes 1 to 5 minutes to implement these exercises in the classroom. You can always, stack the exercises. So if you have a little bit more time and you want to do a few exercises together, that's fine. But you can do a brain break in as little as 1 or 2 minutes a day. And it's a small amount of time, but it can make a big difference. The program resources include the manual. There are implementation guides for the 6 through 12 grade level that just kind of break down like different exercises that might be useful at different times. There's a card deck which has a image of each brain break and the instructions on the opposite side, and you can keep that card deck handy in your classroom if you want to lead a brain break yourself. And finally, we have an extensive video library, and we're really proud of our video library. We work really hard to create it. The videos are designed to be played in the classroom. Um, all of our resources are available in English and Spanish. And then our video library is available in Ukrainian, Chinese, Dari, Farsi, Haitian Creole, French, Arabic, Hindi, Korean, and Japanese. So one of our goals was to get these resources in front of as many learners as we could because we really know how well they work. And uh, we have ASL interpretation available on many of our Brain Breaks videos. We recommend that folks implement brain breaks daily. So the more consistent we can be, like small doses consistently, is going to be more effective than doing like one long session once a month. To access the resources, you go to pureedgeinc.org. You go to the curriculum page. So you just click on curriculum and a form will like a form will pop up and you just need to fill in the form. It's very simple and that will grant you access. So once you've filled in the form, you submit the form, you should automatically get a confirmation email. If you don't see it right away, check in your junk or your spam folder because sometimes it gets diverted there. But you should get a confirmation email, and once you get that confirmation email, you should be all set and you can create and access your account. Okay, so I talked about the resources. This is just the images of the training manual, the implementation guides by grade level, and the Brain Breaks card deck. And this is the video library. You can see there's animated. Those are for our youngest learners. If you click on youth or adult, you'll see it's many of the same exercises, but the videos are just geared toward, the different age levels. And I think both youth and adult videos are fine to play in the, high school classroom. And if you click on other languages, you'll get you can select which language you want to see the brain breaks in. Okay, so our next breathing activity we call Take 5. And for Take 5, you're going to bring one hand up and you're going to bring the opposite index finger to the base of the thumb. Now, you can hold your hand any way that feels comfortable. What we're going to do is trace an outline of the hand coordinated with our breath. So as you breathe in, look at your fingertip and trace that finger up to the top of your thumb. Pause and breathe out, trace down. Breathe in to trace up. Breathe out to trace down. Keep going, breathing in as you go up. Pause. Breathe out as you go down. Breathing in. Pause. Breathe out. Last one. Breathe in. And breathe out. And from here, you can bring your hands back to your lap. Take a moment to notice how you feel. And take 5, that's a really nice one. Like, even though when I'm demonstrating it, I hold my hand up high, this is a nice one. Like, you can tell the kids if they do it with their hand in their lap, like, let's say they have a test in another class and they're feeling nervous, they can do take 5, like, while right before they start taking the test, they can keep their hand in their lap. No one even has to know that they're doing the exercise, but the exercise is there to support them. So it's a really nice one. And combining the sense of touch with the breath really helps learners focus. So it helps kind of give another point of focus for the exercise that's not only the breathing. Okay, so we always recommend nasal breathing at Pure Edge, and that means breathing in and out the nose. And there's science behind that recommendation. When we breathe in and out the nose, we're helping to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our relaxation response. The nose filters dust and impurities from the air. It also warms the air to body temperature. So if you're joining from a colder climate, when it gets really cold out there, if we breathe through the mouth, that can be harsh on the lungs. But when the air travels through the nasal passageways, it gets warmed, and that's easier on the lungs to absorb. The diaphragm is more easily activated, so nasal breathing supports the development of internal core strength. And finally, when we breathe through the nose, we actually absorb 18% more oxygen than when we breathe through the mouth. So when we absorb more oxygen, it increases our energy and our vitality. So for all those reasons, we recommend nasal breathing for the exercises, unless a specific exercise gives a different instruction. When you're doing brain breaks in the classroom for breathing, again, we keep it simple, but we really recommend you want to encourage the kids to sit up. So when you're hunched over and slumped and like our heads are down, it's really hard to breathe and let the lungs expand in the way they need to do the breathing exercises. So sitting up a little bit, and at the same time, you can model this, right? You don't want to harp on the kids. They should want to do the mindfulness. I know some of the high school teachers I've worked with have just given them the choice. Like, it'll be like, you don't have to do it, but right now we're doing our breathing. You're not going to be on a device. You're not going to be talking and distracting. If you want to participate, you can, right? So that's another way to build buy-in. They have some voice, they have some choice. Um, but anyway, we say sit up tall, we use nasal breathing, and just remembering the importance of the breath, because when we do our breathing and when we consistently do our breathing exercises, that is one way we can affect change in the nervous system. So it's really powerful stuff. Okay, and now we're going to do a brain break. And the brain break that we're going to do, I wanted to showcase one of our brain breaks videos. And this one I believe is in Spanish. I've included a couple ones, but I wanted to showcase also the diversity of languages that we can share. So if you don't speak Spanish, just follow along as best you can. I think you'll do just fine.
Inhale para levantar el brazo derecho por encima de su cabeza y luego exhale. Inclínese hacia el lado izquierdo, deslizando el brazo izquierdo por el exterior de la pierna izquierda. Quedémonos aquí por unas cuantas respiraciones. Inhale y exhale.
Si nota que los músculos laterales de su cuerpo se cansan, puede levantarse un poco. Y si siente que quiere más, puede bajar un poco. Bien. Inhale y exhale. Inhale, suba. Y exhale, suelte el brazo derecho. Inhale, levante el otro brazo hacia arriba, al lado izquierdo. Y exhale, inclínese hacia el lado. Inhale y exhale. Inhalación lenta. Exhalación lenta. Inhale y exhale. Inhale, levántese y exhale para soltar el brazo.
Okay, so checking in, noticing how that felt in your body. If you'd like to share any responses in the Q&A, again, I'll check it at the end of our session. And we'll move on. So the three most important aspects of learning, attention, focus, and memory, are all controlled by our emotions, not by cognition. So and this quote comes from Mark Brackett, who is the founder and the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He does a lot of wonderful work in schools. And when we can acknowledge and give the kids some tools to manage the emotions that they're feeling day to day, it's going to improve their educational outcomes. And we have research to back that up. So this is an overview of a few different research studies on our Pure Edge programs. And most of these studies were focusing on the Pure Power curriculum, which is our full curriculum. So the kids in these studies would have received a longer dose than just a couple of minutes a day, right? It would have been most of them would have been around 25 to 30 minutes 2 times a week. But the research shows that when we do these practices with consistency, we get results. And you can see the headlines here. So we saw improvement in math, spelling, and emotion regulation. That was in elementary school. We saw an increase of an hour of 74 minutes of sleep per night for kids who were participating in the Pure Power program. We also saw an improvement in GPA. And the improvement in GPA was an interesting one. This was high school, and they had, it wasn't exactly a control group, but they had one group that received the intervention. Well, I guess it was a control group, and one group that received traditional PE. So I think it was like an elective for PE. And the kids who elected to do the mindful movement exercises for their PE program showed improved academic performance. So that was an exciting result. And that's to say that, there's evidence behind incorporating this type of work into the school day.
Well,
And the next one is another video. And this one is Marley. She's another student at San Diego sharing her experience.
we're like a mixed family, and so we had lots of kids to take care of in one little household. I was the oldest sibling out of all of them, so it's like kind of hard because it was like a lot me having to take care of some of the kids and babysitting them when my parents had to go somewhere. At the beginning of the year, I felt really anxious going into 9th grade. I did not like doing anything in class. I didn't like raising my hand. So mindfulness, it's a project that helps with your mindset, with all the different exercises that we do. Our brains like switch from anxious to calm. I have really grown and became like more confident in my answers. And I like raise my hands more about books and stuff in running class. I will keep using all the exercises and stuff. If I get really nervous or like just wanting to not do something, I'll just think back to this time and be like, oh, I can do it. Like I can really do it.
I love how she talks about kind of being reserved and being a little afraid to raise her hand or to jump forward in class, and how through engaging with the mindfulness strategies, she sort of found the courage to do that. And I also heard at the end, it's like she found some self-awareness, right? Because she's like, when I feel like not doing stuff. So she's becoming aware of having those feelings. And then she has the strategies and the memories of other times that she's taken a risk and been successful. So I think just a wonderful story.
Sit tall in seated mountain and come forward on your chair so that your feet can be flat on the floor. The feet are slightly apart. And inhale, sit up tall. And as you exhale, touch your right knee with your left hand. And put your right hand either on the waist or grab either the base of the chair or the back of the chair. Again, inhale, sit up tall. And exhale, look over your right shoulder. And you can reach for the base or back of the chair or just leave the hand on the waist. And take 3 easy breaths. At the end of 3 breaths, inhale to come back to seated mountain sitting tall. Resting your hands on your legs. Now let's go on the other side. Inhale, sit up tall. And exhale, touch your left knee with your right hand. And place the left hand either on the waist or grab the base of the chair or the back of the chair. Again, sit up tall. And exhale to look over your shoulder. You can reach for the base or back of the chair or just leave the hand on the waist. Taking 3 easy breaths. After 3 breaths, inhale to come back to seated mountain sitting tall, with your hands resting on your legs.
Okay, so just noticing how it felt in your body to do those twists. That brain break was one of the ones, obviously, that we have the ASL interpretation available. And yeah, we just wanted to showcase that resource. And again, these videos are available for you on our website. And you can just take them, you can download them, you can put them on whatever device, however you utilize them, however you play videos in your classroom. So these are our implementation tips. So in general for brain breaks, consistency is your friend. So you want to establish a consistent routine. They're effective at the start of the day, at the end of the day, during transition times. If you're this will be covered more in the next slide, but if you're a homeroom teacher, that is a really nice way to integrate the brain break. So we help the kids right at the beginning of their school day. At the same time, if you're like a subject teacher and it's just coming through the days, just giving them like that 5 minutes at the beginning of your class to settle in from the chaos of the hallway, that could be useful, right? Start small and then build. That means just start with 1 or 2 brain breaks, right? You keep it really simple at first. Let them get familiar with the brain breaks. And then when they're comfortable, add on more, or more variety. People often think, we're conditioned to want a lot of variety, but actually, with these types of exercises, it's more beneficial to repeat a few of the same exercises over and over until the kids feel more comfortable, and then add in some more. You don't want to do too much all at once. And repetition again, repeat, repeat, repeat. Don't be afraid of repeating them. And finally, again, when we get back to that idea and that notion of buy-in, you being comfortable and also valuing this work is what's going to help build the buy-in. So it's just like anything else they do at school. They're not always going to jump for joy when you introduce it, but when it's an expected part of their routine and their school day, and that time is predictable, um, they'll catch on. And you'll hear, I think in several of the student videos, they talk about how it's like, oh, the first time I thought it was kind of weird, but then over time, I thought, no, actually, this is really cool. Or, oh, I thought, like, why are we doing breathing, right? Like, so they're not going to be on board right at the beginning. But if you can hold the value of this work, and if you can model the value of this work, then they're going to get on board with it much more easily. And here are just some particular times that might be useful to integrate the brain breaks. So at arrival or homeroom, I mean, that's really my favorite because we never know what kind of morning anybody's had, right? So giving everyone a chance to kind of reset when we're making that shift from home to school is a great strategy to build that SEL and build that supportive environment for the kids. Before testing, breathing can help get them, manage any feelings of anxiety or nervousness. Um, using the brain breaks to refocus between lessons, taking breaks during your class, the afternoon slump. I know that's real. So then that might be when you might want to integrate some of the more energizing movement brain breaks, right? Where we get a little movement into the body and help them kind of get their heartbeats going and get some energy flowing so that they can access that energy then to do some of the work they still need to do in the day. And then finally at departure, and departure might be a harder one to fit it in because I think at the end of the day, they're just kind of ready to go. But if you have time and if you like to build in a routine to check in with themselves at the end of the day, that can also be super beneficial. There's one brain break in particular. The exact name is escaping me now, but it's something like 1 minute reflection. And it's basically like, let's take a minute, think about how our day went, what went well, how did that feel, what didn't go well, and what could we do different to improve that, right? So just building in this practice of reflection. And again, we're really helping the kids develop their self-awareness competency. And these are all just pointers. So you might have a perfect time that's not listed on here. You don't have to do as we say. We're just giving you, we're sharing our knowledge, but I know many schools have different structures and different routines, and there might be a window in your school day that you think will be perfect to integrate brain breaks with the learners. So this is meant to support you, not hold you back from doing that.
You said that you were nervous. What were you nervous about?
Just the new school. There's a lot more kids here and new people. Didn't know where anything was. Some things that were stressful, definitely the basketball season, managing my work, because you have practice. I had 2-hour practices, and some practices I would get out at 8, and then you have to manage like your family time and hanging out with friends also. So it just gets to be like a lot.
So at the beginning of the mindfulness project, I was kind of just like, okay, we're doing breathing, didn't really see, how it would help. And then by the second or third time she came, I was like really into it. I thought it was really cool because there's a lot of good benefits, just managing your stress, your overall mental health, physical health, like it helps your heart. Going to a school where your feelings are acknowledged by teachers makes the day go by faster, and it just makes you want to be there. I love the school. Now I'm more comfortable, have friends, outgoing. I just think it's a really great project, and I think more schools should have a project.
So again, she's sharing how that mindfulness project helped her feel connected at school, right? And it helped her feel like she belonged. One other aspect of this project, I didn't share a video of it in this presentation, but one other way they help build buy-in with the high schoolers is that part of their program, once they had learned and had been practicing the exercises themselves, these students got the chance to go into the elementary schools, the local elementary schools, and teach some of the brain breaks to the elementary school learners. And I think that also really helped with buy-in. So giving them leadership, giving them voice, giving them choice. All of those are effective ways to get the kids excited about what you're doing. Okay, so we are toward the end of our session. I want to do one more strategy. So this is a resting strategy, and it's called taking in the good. So for this one, come into any comfortable position. No need to sit up tall or try to be extra alert. And again, your eyes can be open or closed, whatever helps you relax the best. Let's just take a couple breaths in and out the nose. And I'm going to invite you to think about something from today. So from the time you woke up today up until right now, think about something good that happened, right? It could be something that you did, that you accomplished. It could be a moment that you shared, a connection that you had with someone, a shared smile. It could be something in nature that you noticed. There's really no wrong answer, and it doesn't have to be anything really big, right? Just one good thing that you noticed today. Just take a moment and choose your good thing. And once you've thought of something, go ahead and just imagine that good thing in as much detail as you can. Notice how that feels. And for the next few moments, we're just going to allow that feeling to soak into the body. And when you're ready, you can deepen your breath. If you closed your eyes, you can open them. And just as a frame of reference, taking in the good was an exercise that was created to counter the brain's negativity bias, because the human brain is wired to focus on dangerous, negative, and bad things in an attempt to keep us safe, right? So it's to kind of, for future reference, try to avoid that situation or that scenario again. And that's how our brains are wired. But we often focus on negative things that aren't really a safety issue. And so taking in the good helps us practice focusing on the good things that are already around us. Okay, so we're at the Q&A. We're also close to our time. I'm just going to quickly show this slide. So for folks who want to reach out, this is all my contact information, Erin@pureedgeinc.org. You can go on our website, pureedgeinc.org, and you can also find us on all of these social channels. So we have Instagram, YouTube, X, or formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I want to highlight the YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is quite active, and there's a lot of brain breaks and a lot of short videos and resources